Just a heads up, this video has spoilers for all 4 acts of Crownfall. Continue at your discretion. So, Crownfall. It may come as no surprise to you, but the crown did indeed fall. This event was something completely, wildly different from anything that Valve has ever done. I don't think that Valve has been this committed to the lore of Dota 2 ever since Artifact. I see this as a very welcome change. I've always been invested in Dota's lore ever since I started playing the game, and this was a dream come true, even if it wasn't focused on my favorite characters. Let alone characters in my hero pool at all. But just because Valve gave us a lore event doesn't mean the lore or the event were high quality. Let's see just how good this thing really was. The first we heard of this event was on November 20th, 2023. We were told that the event involving the Arcanas gained a few moving parts, and would take a bit to come out. Oh, how naive some of us were when that announcement dropped. What a dark time the second half of 2023 was for Dota. But I digress. We waited and waited until February 8th, 2024, when the name of the update was finally revealed. Crownfall. Speculation began to arise, leaks were dropped, and people already pieced together that the event was going to be centered around Skywrath Mage and Vengeful Spirit. Oh, and Ringmaster might show up at some point. Some people speculated a Siltbreaker-like event, while others figured this was going to be a return to the tried and true Battle Pass. Both would be right and wrong at the same time. On April 18th, 2024, after watching T-Gov farm mangoes for a day and then some, we finally got our update. It all started with a comic. This comic acted as an exposition dump, but had some points of strong characterization here and there. It explains the political standing of all the big players in this story, from Queen Imperia to Scree'Auk. Imperia sits on her ivory throne, fearful of a flightless rebellion, while Scree'Auk schemes a way to seat Venge on the throne. We saw Scree'Auk divest her powers into Sky and Venge to ensure they're prepared to usurp Imperia and restore Venge as the rightful ruler. Hours after the comic dropped, the actual update was uploaded into the game. Dota players surged into their clients to find a new world map to explore in glorious cavern crawl-esque fashion. After the map prompted them with a comic and the first bit of the visual novel, some players were heavily upset by this. Most people were looking forward to a gameplay patch, but that was nowhere in sight. People complained that this was just an update for hats and that nobody cares about the lore. Yet, a lot of people, myself included, enjoyed this new update. It was different, creative, bold, and a great way to get people invested into the lore. A lot better than whatever the anime was trying to accomplish. The mixed reactions worried me a bit. I was kind of scared that the heated response might discourage Valve from doing more lore events like this, but if there are any Valve employees listening, I beg you, please keep making more of this. Crownfall's writing had some issues, some more glaring than others, but I promise you, you will get better at this, and do not underestimate how much people love Dota 2's lore. Along with the event, we got the Skywrath and Venge Arcanas, but no Ringmaster. This, understandably, upset even more people considering he was teased all the way back in October of last year. I don't know what kind of development hell Valve faced or if they plan to release Ringmaster for TI-13 from the start, but it was a huge disappointment for pretty much everyone. Anyways, on the 2 Arcanas, I've already reviewed these as part of my Arcana review series. The Vengeful Spirit Arcana is an 8.5 out of 10, and the Skywrath Arcana is a 9 out of 10. If you wish to know my full thoughts on these 2 Arcanas, watch episodes 3 and 4, which will be linked in the description. One thing I did not mention in the video was my annoyance that in the actual name of these Arcanas, Valve felt it necessary to staple Crownfall onto their titles. The way these Arcanas were advertised also heavily peeves me. This splash art is everywhere concerning this event. We have Skywrath looking all black and blue like he did in the comic, and Venge looking white and gold. Not like in the comic. I'm sorry, you guys released the comic before showing us this. Why does Venge look completely different? I thought she was all dark and blue like what we just saw in the comic. Why is she all radiant and golden here? A few clicks later we'll reveal that this is the default style, and that this is likely Venge at the end of her journey. And then you see the Skywrath second style and just... Why even bother telling a story if we already know the end already? This is going to be Skye and Venge at the end of the event. Venge is going to reclaim her rightful spot on the throne. Why is this Venge plastered everywhere if it spoils the entire story? Without any context, these two Arcanas side by side make it seem like this is an alternate universe where the two characters swapped places. Pun intended. But it's not. Valve could have hidden these styles away from the public and made this style the default for Venge's Arcana. That and some voice line tweaks would have entirely removed spoilers from both Arcanas. Additionally, 2 treasures were released into the game. I've reviewed each of the Crownfall treasures leading up to this video, so if you want to know my thoughts on them, you can check them out in the playlist in the description. These treasures can be earned throughout the map, and free skins are always welcome, unless they're outstandingly bad. There were also the Pathfinder packs that included some neat little rewards, and access to 2 additional side quests for each act. Pathfinder packs also include some bonus stuff which will be discussed later. Additionally, in the Crownfall store, there is a discount system. If you earn 10 Crownfall coins, you can earn an $8 discount on any purchase from the Crownfall store, given that the purchase is $8 or higher. This update also sees the return of the Candy Shop. This is a welcome return, as it's an easy way to get some cosmetics for absolutely nothing. You can snag an Arcana or 3 if you're lucky, but since it only pulls from the older Arcanas, quality isn't guaranteed. You could either get something as extravagant as the Pudge Arcana, or get something as dismal as the Fire Hair. The Candy Trade-in functions as a problem-solving mechanic that makes players critically think about how to achieve the reward they want, like a puzzle game. The Candy Shop starts with 3 trade-in options, 2 rewards per reroll, and 2 rows of candy. Each Candy Shop reached throughout the various acts will unlock more of the Candy Shop, eventually reaching 3 rows of candy, 3 rewards to choose from, and 4 trade-in options. Rerolls are earned by winning games, offering 10 a week. You can also purchase a bundle for $8 that gives you 10 rerolls, some double down tokens, and some candy. The store and the candy shop both offer a lot of variety and a way to save money by progressing through this event. This system works great, and I really have no criticisms here. Going forward in this video, I'll be going act by act, ranking each of them on the following: rewards, progression, minigames, and story. We'll do this Arcana review style, and rank each of these aspects before averaging them up to an overall score out of 10. Okay, let's start with Act 1.
You are a meatball! A meatball!
Act 1 takes place in the Midgate markets, a mercantile square where many of the Flightless dwell. The Flightless are a faction of Skywrath people that lack wings, and worship Scree'Auk as a goddess. Well, before her worship was outlawed. We start at the bottom left and travel all the way around town looking for the Kazurai. As we do this, we earn various...
I got a chocolate bar. I got a quarter. I got a rock.
Most of the rewards in Act 1 are largely candy, coins, and double down tokens, but mixed in are some sprays, emoticons, Queen Imperia voice lines, profile decorations, treasures 1 and 2, and some hero cosmetics. The sprays here are fantastic, and it's going to be a while before Valve ever tops this one in particular. The Queen Imperia voice lines are high quality BM and actually have tilted me in a few instances. The emoticons are nice and fun with some references to Le Epic memes. The real kickers are the hero cosmetics. There are 2 that we get: an Immortal for Ricky and a 4 style set for Invoker by Seraph K. The Ricky Immortal is nice and meshes well with some of his existing sets. The spell effect is very clean, visually pleasing, and adds a nice dash of red to the purple spell catalog. The Invoker set is pretty nice in that the base style aligns with Invoker's base color scheme, and the other 3 styles take on the colors of Quaswex and Exort. Additionally, the other 3 styles open up his chest window. Everything outside the chest window I think is fine, and it fits with the avian aesthetic of the event. I kinda wish this was for a different character, since Invoker's skin catalog is already quite bloated, especially with the new Collector's Cash skin. The map here does have a candy farm. The new temple for Scree'Auk constantly takes token donations in trade for candy and rerolls. These are legitimately broken, as you can earn heaps of sets, treasures, and other bits and bobs after you've completed everything else on the map. As for the Pathfinder pack, there are a set of creep skins. I think the colors could be a bit more pronounced than both sides. There's a lot of brown and black, and there's not a lot of differentiation between the melee and ranged creeps. I found myself often confusing ranged and melee creeps during laning, and it was a little more than frustrating. The treasures aren't all that frequent, but not annoyingly rare. The profile decorations are neat, they're a fun little collectible in a cute art style. Overall, I think the rewards of Act 1 are fine. It sets a standard, but nothing really knocks me out of the park. Except the spray. 6 out of 10.
You a bank loan? No? Yes? Yes? No?
The progression for Act 1 was revolutionary compared to Cavern Crawl, but it is easily the worst progression of all 4 acts. When we all opened up this page for the first time, we were introduced to the token system. Each hero has 3 tokens. Said tokens are earned when a game is won. If a game is lost, you only get 1 out of 3 tokens at random. If it's a turbo game, you get 2 out of 3 tokens chosen at random. And if you lose a turbo game, you get nothing. The trade-in for this act is also the least efficient out of all 4 acts. You can trade in 3 of the same token for 1 token of your choosing, or you can trade any 4 tokens to get the exact same thing. The distribution of heroes across the tokens was quite generous, and really the only token that didn't have a lot of heroes was Slithering. Even then, there's a spot on the map that gives out Slithering tokens for free. All you gotta do is just play a game. Each spot can require 1 to 4 tokens at random. Advancing in certain spots can take multiple games to progress through, which has the potential to kill some pacing and cause some frustration. Additionally, there is only 1 minigame which gives tokens, and you aren't given a lot. I admire Valve for finally solving the Cavern Crawl problem, but this act is the worst out of the others. For that, it's going to get a 6 out of 10.
It's day 3 out here on the river with David, still no sign of human life. Was that a flying fish?
As previously mentioned, Act 1 only has 1 minigame, and it's fishing. This minigame was reasonably difficult, but easy to master after about 5 minutes. The leaderboard adds a competitive edge to it that incentivizes players to come back for more, and tokens can be earned by reaching certain milestones. Valve made a whole set of animations for Venge just for this minigame. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to why Tidehunter is here, but that's something I tackled whilst covering the story. It's only 1 minigame, but it has some genuine depth to it. Then again, there was only 1. 4 out of 10. The writing of this act had some really strong points, largely in the characterizations of our leads, and some really weak points in the side quests. So, from the top, we start out with Dragonus, Skywrath Mage, Shen, Vengeful Spirit, and Scree'Auk, walking into town in search of aid in their quest of taking down Imperia. The first dialogue we get involves a small summary of the comic we just read. Thank you, Valve, but I can remember things. Along the way, Scree'Auk explains that they gotta seek the Kazurai for help. The Kazurai are a secret sect of monks bent on dethroning Imperia and would likely want to sit a flightless on the throne. We find out that they are on the down low, and their leader specifically is in hiding. Also on the way, Dragonus asks why the Kazurai leader is in hiding, only to pretty much answer himself 2 dialogue boxes later. This put a bad feeling in my stomach, and I was really hoping Valve didn't half-ass the writing. The whole first 5 segments of dialogue are basically the characters repeating their goal and explaining more exposition. It's boring and unnecessary, and the only thing we learn about these characters is that Scree'Auk knows who the Kazurai are. After this, the trio go and visit someone that Scree'Auk thinks will be able to help locate the Kazurai. They visit Bakeet, a flightless meat merchant. He's pretty plucky and a bit naive with some aspirations for adventure. It's never stated outright that he worships Scree'Auk, but it's obvious that he holds her in high regard at the very least. But we later get confirmation that he does indeed worship Scree'Auk. Anyways, upon their visit, Bakeet is skeptical since Scree'Auk is moseying around with 2 highborns, and we get this comedic bit.
Stop slamming the door in our faces, you stupid bird! Do you not recognize your own goddess?
Why would Scree'Auk, champion of the flightless, be hanging around with 2 caviar-eating, fancy-flying topsiders?
Oh, well, that's a complicated...
He looks like a flapping Queensguard, and she could be Imperia's sister.
I am Imperia's sister.
I am also Queensguard, yes.
This moment lightens the tone a little, since everything before this point extending as far back as the comic has been almost dead serious. This also succeeds in establishing Bakeet as a cautious individual who dislikes the higher class of Skywrath society. Bakeet is most likely more skeptical now, more than ever, and tells the trio that if they manage to do his job for him for a day, he'll tell them the location of the Kazurai. We get to the fishing minigame, and Tidehunter is here. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it's nothing massive. Tidehunter isn't really a character in Crownfall at all, and his presence has no impact on the story. Sure, maybe this emissary of Maelron could be scrounging around a fish market. He loves to eat after all, and Midgate is somewhat of a shady place, considering who we find around here. I think Bakeet was supposed to be here, but they never gave him a 3D model. Anyways, fishing ensues, and Bakeet is very impressed with Shen's work, enough to let them know that there is a hidden temple somewhere along the cliffside where they can find the Kazurai. It's difficult to spot unless you know what you're looking for. Then the group carries on their way through Midgate, and Scree'Auk shares some more knowledge about this Kazurai group. We learn that their leaders are Kestrel and Craw. Craw was the founder, and Kestrel is a youngling who managed to sneak his way into prison and free Craw under the guards' noses. Craw is impressed and makes Kestrel the first initiate. We see this play out in the Ascension Knight comic that was released before Act 4. We learn that Dragonus finds this tale highly unlikely. This interaction reveals to us that Dragonus still thinks highly of the Queen's Guard. He still takes pride in their skillfulness and vigilance to the point where the possibility of sneaking past them is preposterous. Scree'Auk also reveals that these two Kazurai leaders have been training a secret army to challenge Imperia. Scree'Auk notes how they fight for the Flightless to have equal rights as the Topsiders. Dragonus also has something to say about this.
Well, some rights could be open for discussion, I suppose.
Dragonus, please. Of course, Scree'Auk. All will be equal under my reign.
They don't want you to reign.
Oh,
No more highborn kings, and no more highborn queens.
What? This bottom-feeding rabble thinks they would do a better job of leading a kingdom than...
Well, it sounds like you'll have a lot to discuss when we get to the temple.
This bit tells us a lot about Dragonus and Shen. Shen genuinely wants to help the lower class since she's been one of them and understands their perspective. Dragonus, on the other hand, is wholly against this because of the order he's grown up and lived with. It's done no wrong to him or his family and friends, so why would he want it to change? After this exchange, the group finds the temple entrance swarming with Queensguard. Dragonus wants to fight his way through, telling us that his admiration towards the Queensguard ends where Shen's path begins. Gondar, of all people, then shows up, offering to guide them through a secret entrance. He tells them that Imperia found the temple days ago, and charges them a huge fee for the sneaky shortcut. They pay the fee and come to the temple, where they find Pudge eating some of the dead Kazurai. Having Pudge here is a nice twist. Usually you see carrion birds eating dead humans after battle, but here we have the carrion human eating dead birds after a battle. Dragonus and Shen aren't very disgusted by this. For Dragonus, this makes sense. He still looks down on the lower class, but Shen should be a bit more than angry at this. Anyways, Pudge tells them everything they need to know pertaining to Kestrel and Craw. It's not explained how he knows this, but knowing Pudge, he was probably out for food, and like a crow, was attracted to marching soldiers so he could get a nice payout with all the corpses lying around. Pudge is smarter than he lets on, and it makes sense for him to know all this. The trio agree to split up. Dragonus goes to Druid in search of Craw, and Shen goes to Icewreck in search of Kestrel. And Pudge says he'll stay at the temple and eat all the corpses, even though in the comic he comes with them. The trio then set off with Pudge and Bakeet and make for the port city of Smoke Harbor. Here it's revealed that Kunkka is Shen's farrier, and that they have known each other. We get some playful dialogue between them, and some comedic relief ensues.
I have been trapped in the back of a wagon with this thing all night, and he has not stopped emitting odors once!
Following this, we get an amazing segment between Dragonus and Shen that I come back and reread more often than I care to admit.
I'm glad that he agreed to come. Kestrel might take some convincing.
I wish more could come with you.
No. We need to travel light and move quickly. As do you. When are you leaving?
As soon as your ship departs, we aim to be in Koyaj by nightfall. Though I wish I was keeping better company.
You'll need him. Can't think of anyone I trust more to guide you through the terrors of Carnage Fields.
Perhaps. I suspect most of the terrors come from him.
Dragonus.
2 days ride on no sleep. I don't know how you do it. You're in a far better mood than I.
I've been in the spirit for too long. To finally have a solid form again. The breeze running through my fingers. The sun in my eyes. My stomach's growling, Dragonus.
Of course. Let me get you...
No, I love it. I haven't eaten a meal in years. And now I'm hungry. I don't think I realized how much I missed it. I can be a part of this world again.
You can be hurt by it as well. Keep yourself secret.
Oh, stop. You know I can take care of...
I know, but Imperia. She knows my power is no longer tied to her, and likely that I am in league with the rebels. And she knows of the rebels themselves. The Kazurai. She hunts them. But she does not know about you. Not yet. And that is our greatest weapon. Keep yourself secret, my Shen. Keep yourself safe.
Absolute cinema. This was an amazing interaction to end Act 1, and it shows us Dragonus and Shen at their best. These two characters have amazing chemistry together, and it's evident that they deeply care about each other. We're not done with the story just yet. There are 3 side quests in this act. 2 of them are part of the Pathfinder pack. The first one we come across is Meepo's side quest. Meepo's side quest begins with some good characterization before Scree'Auk catches Meepo stealing from her coin purse.
These flightless look at us with such hatred.
It's our wings. They envy us. Completely understandable.
They hate you because your sister tortures and disappears them. Once you regain power, Princess, you must work to get your hand out of my coin purse!
Ah, crap.
A pickpocket. You'll lose your hand for this.
Look, if you want it so bad, you can have the stupid thing. But you'll have to catch me first. Now, Meepo!
They chase Meepo down, beat him up a bit, and then let him explain himself. It turns out, one Meepo made a bet with a Queen's Guard, but didn't pay his end of it. Therefore, the Queen's Guard arrest a different Meepo, mistaking one for another. Said Meepo is going to be executed, and the other Meepos are desperate to not die, and look to Shen for help due to her wings. Shen doesn't outright agree, but ends up following through once Meepo comes up with a plan of distraction.
No papers, no passage. Don't waste my time. Next.
Squat, whatever you say, boss.
Let's see. What? I just told you. Out of my line.
Caw! You don't have to tell me twice.
Next. Papers.
Hey, ugly. You want to see something?
He's got a knife.
One knife? I got tons of them. Show 'em, boys.
Shen gets close enough for the jailed Meepo to poof out, and they are saved. The side quest then ends, but not before Meepo steals Shen's coin purse and flees. This side quest is good fun, and while you can argue that Shen never agreed to help him, but did so anyways, this was a small step in rebelling against Imperia by freeing a prisoner. This was an excellent introduction into the side quests. It's the longest side quest in the whole event, and even has a comic as part of it. Unfortunately, the other side quests in this act don't match up as well. The next side quest we encounter is a bit later down the line, and features Juggernaut. It starts with Juggernaut calling over to Scree'Auk. Scree'Auk recognizes Juggernaut on a first-name basis, and Juggernaut begins telling her of a potential brother that leads the Kazurai. Scree'Auk then directs Juggernaut towards an Scree'Auk then directs Juggernaut towards an Avilava temple, where supposedly they are sacrificing Juggernaut's brother. Juggernaut then wreaks havoc upon the temple, and through some dialogue it's revealed that Avilava is Scree'Auk's rival when it comes to worshippers. Afterwards, Scree'Auk tells Juggernaut that she had deceived him, but she whispers something to him, and he goes off in search of her. This side quest is just alright. I don't like how they downplay Jug's intelligence as if he'll believe the first thing you tell him. Secondly, Juggernaut takes no offense to Scree'Auk outright using him and admitting it. All of those priests and worshippers killed, and Juggernaut shrugs it off once he realizes that he's been tricked. Not to mention, he refers to himself in third person? He really only does this in one, debatably 2 voice lines. It's great that we have some characterization for Scree'Auk, but I'm sad it had to be at the expense of Juggernaut's character. The last side quest we come across is another Pathfinder quest. This one features Ricky. The trio find themselves taking the wrong turn, and Shen feels like someone's watching them. Dragonus reaches for some dust of appearance, and Ricky emerges from the shadows, advising them to put the dust away with daggers in his eyes. Or hands, rather. Ricky says that he wasn't following them, but they were in his way. He says he's after a knife, and explains that he hired a blacksmith to make a knife for him. He says he's got a lot of people to kill, which Shen can sympathize with, so she agrees to help. They find the blacksmith hiding in a barrel, and the blacksmith explains that he thought Ricky was going to use the new knife to kill him to get a bounty, and that's why he was hiding. This whole side quest is a bit convoluted, and I really don't enjoy the stories that are just, oh, it was all a big misunderstanding. Not to mention Shen's willingness to help an alleyway assassin. If Shen knew Ricky's full story, I think she'd fully be on his side. But all Ricky says is that he has a lot of people that need killing. She has no idea who these people are, so I doubt she would help some random assassin off the street acquire another weapon. But overall, Act 1 is alright. The Jug and Ricky side quests featured uninteresting plots and character assassinations, and the introduction dialogues are almost annoyingly redundant. But other than that, I really enjoyed following the story, and the ending comic was perfect. Act 1 story earns an 8 out of 10. Act 1 was a really great introduction into the event, and it would only get better from here. Minigames are really its only glaring low point, but I understand Valve not wanting to overwhelm the players with depth that we'll see in future minigames. The other aspects are fine, and the comic leading into the other acts is immensely strong. This act overall earns a 6.5 out of 10 from me.
I'd be crying if I looked like that too, bro. That's fucked up what they be doing to y'all. I ain't even gonna hold you, bro. I'd be saying that's fucked up. Like, bro, you probably had the full washing set. Your shit would have been fire if they hadn't cut your shit. Fuck it though, bro. It's your life.
Act 2 follows Dragonus' journey into Druid in search of Craw. Druid is a desert region inhabited by the Valhesi, the Igloti, the Centaurs, and its western regions are currently occupied by the Bronze Legion. They have recently been attacked by Underlord's hordes and are recovering after such a desolating battle. This act was released with the Facets update and was generally well received. Among the Dota community, this act has easily cemented itself as the most memorable. I also think it's up there in terms of quality, so let's find out why.
Hey, hi, I'm Alan. Adam's apple. Alan. My name's Alan. You misheard me.
Act 2's rewards are amazing and are very much worth your time. This set of emoticons is awesome, especially this silly little Meepo one. There's loading screens and double down tokens, candies, all that. There are no voice lines to be earned, however. The set that comes with this act is legendary. Griffin Knight, made by X Manta, has an excellent design, and the colors work very well with every facet because the colors that don't change are very neutral and don't get in the way of everything else. White, black, and gold goes well with pretty much every color except yellow. Furthermore, you can earn glowing effects for the set by completing the side quests, and the glowing effect is consistent with the facet chosen. Snowflakes for frost, poison bubbles for corrosive, and cinders for fire. There was so much attention to detail in this set, and it easily outshines the other sets from the other acts. The Centaur Immortal is unique. The second style looks a bit goofy in my opinion, but this Immortal does fit nicely into the route of the Emerald Marauder set. The effigy block is also nice and looks way better on Dire than on Radiant. But overall, these rewards are awesome. Treasure 3 was also released, but if you want to know my thoughts on it, again, playlist in the description, Treasure Review, you get the gist. In the Pathfinder pack, you can earn a Crownfall music pack, which has been playing this entire time, so make of its quality what you will. The rewards of Act 2 get a 10 out of 10 from me.
Come on, Gordon, crank that thing.
Valve learned a lot from the progression system in Act 1. Progression is easier, but the heroes are more spread out among the tokens. In Act 1, every token had a decent amount of heroes except for Slithering, but here it's a bit more strict, and there are no heroes with triple same tokens. Besides gameplay, tokens can be earned through the various minigames, encounters, trading, and gifting. That's right, you can gift tokens to your friends. Now of course you can't just dump every token your friend needs in one day. You can only give one token to one friend per day. It's a very neat addition to the progression system, and though it might not have a lot of impact, it is very nice to trade tokens among friends. This act also introduces Scrap. Scrap can only be earned through playing games. You only get 2 scrap per game, and at the token trader you can get 1 token of your choosing for 6 scrap. So if you're really unlucky and bad at the game like me, you can get the token you need within 3 games at the very least. This acts as a good fallback, since Act 1 there was no safety net to guarantee tokens. Sure, you could trade in tokens, but doing so was incredibly inefficient. Whereas here, scrap has no other use, so make as many tokens as you please. Scrap was such a good system to implement that it became a staple of every act going forward. The gambling ring on the Centaur side quest is not a very good way of earning tokens. You're more than halfway through the act once you reach it, and you can only earn the type of token you put up to bet. Not only that, but you are not guaranteed tokens at all. You could either just lose a token or earn a few. The lower the stats of the fighters, the higher payout they'll give you if you win. So betting on low stats fighters could yield a great reward, but more times than most, it'll just leave you in a deficit. The progression in Act 2 is certainly better than Act 1. There are so many new systems at play here that still make progression feel good, but challenging at the same time. 8 out of 10.
Yo pensé que era un pato. Véanle las patas, válgame. ¡Quieto, puto! ¡No me estás picoteando!
For the minigames of Act 2, we get 4 in total, though one of them might not be a minigame depending on how you count it. The minigame roster is as follows: Oasis Fishing, Sand Fishing, Bat Racer, and, debatably, Snapfire Secret Recipe. Oasis Fishing is the same as the fishing minigame from the first act. It works, it's fun, but I spent less time on it since I was so used to the mechanic. Sand Fishing, on the other hand, was a capital C challenge. How regular fishing works is that you cast your hook into the water and wait for a fish to come to you. In sand fishing, you have to hit the fish. You have to predict what direction they're going, and it requires a lot of game sense. This spike in difficulty will reward the player with some well-earned tokens, and bragging rights if you can manage to top the leaderboard. Bat Racer is a Flappy Bird clone. The only racing aspect is your first initial playthrough, where you have to beat Bat Rider in a race through a bunch of rocks jutting out of a cave. Once you win this race, you can play an endless mode to earn more tokens. The hitbox can be a little jank at some points, but it doesn't take a whole lot to get used to it. This game's not exactly all that challenging unless you're trying to sweat your way to the leaderboard. Just make sure you make yourself invisible, because party invites can and will ruin your run should one pop up. Lastly, we have Snapfire's Secret Recipe. This minigame doesn't really involve skill as it does puzzle solving. I use the word puzzle solving pretty loosely because there's not a lot of brain power involved. This minigame involves finding a bunch of ingredients for Snapfire so she can make some medicine for Craw. You click around the map finding said ingredients, ranging from fungus to demon blood. The only difficult ingredient to acquire is the fire bug. It's very sensitive and you really have to take your time with it, or else you're going to sink 5 minutes into something that should take 15 seconds max. The minigames are easily the weakest aspect of this act. The reuse of fishing and the underwhelming Bat Racer aren't really all that substantial, and the potion ingredients can barely be qualified as a minigame, even if they have replayability like every other minigame. 6 out of 10.
Come on, dude, it's not real! That's not real! Dude, there's no way! There's no fucking way!
The story of Act 2, just like Act 1, starts with a comic. In this comic, we see the tribes of Druid uniting under a single banner, in hopes of thwarting an invasion of demons. A plan of defense is formed, but some bickering between the tribes occur. Sorla sees to it that these petty rivalries will not stand for the time being.
The Gate Fiend will be here in hours, and he will kill us all, but for a plan. If there are better plans, I will hear them. But if not, then this is the plan. I will not stand here and pretend we have no history. Every tribe here has good reason to hate the others. We must put them aside for one day, or they will be put aside for us. All of your reasons, all of your history will be gone, along with everything else. If you do not fight together, there will be nothing left of us. Now, let's go over it one more time.
Sorry to interrupt. Something approaches from the north.
The horde is upon us already?
No, it looks like birds.
Demon birds?
No, regular birds. Well, not totally regular. They're walking. Maybe you should come take a look.
Axe, Disruptor, and Sorla ride out to meet the not totally regular birds. They find a flock of avian warriors led by an old, short flightless by the name of Craw. The Igloti accept their help, and the battle commences. We don't actually get to see the battle, but we experience its aftermath throughout the entirety of the act itself. The start of this act had the exact opposite problem as the first. The introductory quest had pacing that was way too fast. First we meet Axe, then Sorla's here, then we're just talking to Disruptor, and then Centaur joins along. Again, this worried me on my first read-through. The very end of this quest relieved that worry, as this was our first taste of the chemistry between Dragonus, Centaur, and Axe.
So, considerable tension between you and Sorla?
Yes, extremely awkward.
What? Nah, just on her end. She thinks she took the throne from me, and I'm sore about it.
I think she did. You don't want it back?
No, I could lead this whole tribe, and Sorla knows it. But here's the secret about being a leader. It's terrible. It's just babies complaining to you all day. Axe, we need more latrines. Axe, you built the latrines too close to the well. Blue, blue, blue. Axe, we're all sick. Sorla's a born bureaucrat. She can listen to that crap all day. She didn't take anything. She can have that stupid throne.
But maybe I myself am going too fast here, so let's rewind a bit. Upon Dragonus' arrival, Pudge stays where he is, and Dragonus finds out that all or a significant amount of Kazurai have perished, and that Craw is sick from a poisoned weapon. Sorla offers Dragonus the help of Axe, and if Dragonus can pay Sorla's debt to Craw, she'll offer him aid in whatever he seeks. Disruptor says there's a flower that grows on the side of a volcano that can help with the poison, and the trio head out on their way. If not for the comic, this segment would have been terrible at introducing the characters in Druid. Branching off of this path, we see a shooting star crash into the side of a mountain. This was teased all the way in Act 1, and it finally paid off. Anyways, there is a comic attached to this encounter which features Dragonus investigating the crash site during the night. There he meets Warden, and they enter and discuss the nature of what they find inside. It is an ancient, not of the radiant or the dire, but of something else. Something eternal. Time flows strangely in this place, as seen in this dialogue.
What is this place?
That's the spirit. The cathedral branches off into rooms, like a wagon wheel. Let's look in a room.
Notice what?
The observational firmament of this place is constantly shifting. Time now moves forward for you, but backwards for the self. Do you not hear how odd our conversation is right now?
No, this is how confused I've been since we started talking.
It is a cathedral, eons old. A civilization that lived inside the god it worshipped. Do you notice that?
Warden warns Dragonus to not touch the facets. He does so anyways, and the facets go spiraling through the air towards the heroes. I guess this is a lore explanation of where the facets came from? Still nothing on the innate abilities though. It's hard to say whether this is canon or not. How I read this is that this ancient is a nod towards Valve. Arc mentions multiple times about how time works differently here, and with how their update schedule is, time probably does work differently at Valve offices. Not to mention, facets literally came out of the ancient, and there was a Watcher along with Twin Gates. I'm pretty darn sure this city is supposed to be a reference to Valve. I don't know whether to consider this as canon or not. The fact that Warden is involved weighs heavily in favor of this, but if this is just a Valve reference, I'm leaning towards rejecting this as canon. Anyway, back to the main story. The search for the flower begins with Axe setting a boundary. No dungeons. Dragonus and Centaur begrudgingly agree and they carry on. They come to a bridge and give us another example at how good the chemistry is between these characters. Centaur and Dragonus are debating about who goes over the bridge first, with Dragonus' common sense pitted against Centaur's stiff-headed warrior culture. All the while, Axe walks over the bridge, his courage, or stupidity, on full display. After the bridge escapade, the trio encounter a dungeon. It takes some convincing for Axe to step inside, but they do it eventually. Within, they find some skeletons and battle ensues. A battle? I think slaughter is the better word. Oddly, Axe doesn't react negatively to being in the dungeon he insisted he didn't want to be in. There's a setup, but no punchline. I was really intrigued to see why Axe doesn't like dungeons, but there's nothing. A bit of an aborted arc there. Axe and Centaur rampage through the dungeon, get the flower, and bring it to Disruptor to make the potion. However, they don't exactly get what they were hoping for.
We have returned with the Abyssal Bloom, Wise One. Work your unholy magic.
Yes, let me add it to my scrying cauldron.
Good. Good.
Excellent. It worked.
Give it to us.
Here it is. The information I found in my scrying cauldron.
Excuse me?
Yes. You must fish the petals out of my scrying cauldron and take them to the Abyssal Necromancers of Din. They alone know the secrets of blade poisons.
The trio later find out that these Necromancers of Din were the skeletons they just killed. Of course, they don't tell this to Disruptor, and slyly ask him if anyone else would know how to cure the poison. Disruptor mentions a desert crone that could potentially aid them, and they take their leave. The trio runs into Snapfire, where her massive hair blocks out the dialogue. She gives them a list of ingredients, and the trio, by which I mean the player, scours the land for these ingredients. Snapfire cooks up the potion once all the ingredients are found, and the trio head back to Craw. Craw is healed, but still too sick to travel. Sorla thanks Dragonus, but there are barely any Kazurai left. So instead, Sorla offers 2,000 Aglodi warriors in payment of her debt to Craw. The army finds Pudge, who seems to have started a tourism business in the meantime.
Hey, if it ain't the Birdman.
Dragonus, yes. You guided me through the fields of endless carnage a few weeks ago.
That's right. Ha! Back with some friends, eh? I knew the fields win you over. It's the carnage. Ah, there's nothing else like it. Well, since you've already seen the fields, I'll tell you what. I can take you and your mates up for a few days at the Plains of Ceaseless Torment. We'll spend a little time at the River of Woe, cut through the shuddering forest, I'll even throw some sightseeing and gorge. 3 for the price of 1. 200 gold. I'm cutting me own throat with a deal like that.
No, we seek to...
Shut up, Dragonus! This is a great deal!
Yes, these are some very good bargains.
You must take us to the north by the fastest route. We must be in Skyrath by tomorrow morning.
No sightseeing, eh? Well, we could travel light, if it's just the 3 of you.
Actually, it is slightly more than just the 3 of us.
The Aglodi army moves off on the hunt for battle and glory. For a main story, not a whole lot happens here. The story is really just a vehicle so the player can experience the hilarious chemistry between Dragonus, Axe, and Centaur. I wish the whole Axe dungeon thing had any punchline at all, but overall it was entertaining to say the least. As for the side quests, this act has 4 of them, so let's get cracking. The first side quest we run into involves the ruins of Barzoom. We learned that Barzoom used to be a thriving metropolis where the Aglodi once lived until some shady figure summoned a great evil and brought it to ruin. It is a painful memory for the Aglodi race, and even mentioning it is considered a great offense. The group is then flagged down by Demnock, who you might know as Warlock. Warlock is also an Aglodi, for those that don't know. He may not be red, but he has a lot of their distinct features, from the flat nose to the lack of pupils. Anyways, Warlock's plan is to summon the demon that raised and cursed Barzoom, and have the 4 of them kill it, lifting the curse. Axe and Centaur want to speed this whole thing up, but Warlock isn't fully prepared. In unnervingly relatable fashion, Warlock gives in to peer pressure and summons Pak Rajul, the Blight of Barzoom. Pak Rajul is summoned, but the party threatens to kill him in turn. Pak Rajul states that he is much more powerful than the assorted rabble before him, but Warlock didn't prepare a return spell as a result of the rushed summoning, so unless Warlock reads the spell backwards, there's no way for Pak Rajul to get out of the summoning circle. So the group threaten to leave the demon there if he doesn't uncurse the land. The demon concedes, but not before Axe makes a very convincing point about how while in Barzoom, the Aglodi were a philosopher culture with no teeth, and that the nomad desert life had made them strong. Hearing this, the demon realizes that if they follow through with this, he will be stuck there forever. So the demon uncurses the city, Warlock recites the spell backwards, and Barzoom is free of both fiend and fickleness. Warlock aims to rebuild Barzoom with Sorla, and Axe wishes to keep the red mist around, now that they have a place to spend all their looted gold in. This side quest is decent. It gets a little caught up and convoluted with the mechanics of summoning, but it has a nice ending all things considered. The next side quest we encounter has Batrider challenging Dragonus to a race. If Batrider wins, he gets to use Dragonus as a mount. If Dragonus wins, they get his sick bat Snotty. Sick as in literally afflicted with an illness, not sick as in dope. Dragonus sees this as completely insane, and he doesn't see the worth in taking a sick bat, even though he will be very useful later on. Batrider then suggests they race for pride, and insults Dragonus very deeply.
Dragonus? Chickenus, more like it. Captain of the... hen house.
Dragonus, this is very serious. He has accused you of cowardice. Now, you must race.
We don't have time for this.
Look, I ain't asking you to race around the planet. Just to that bout over there. It'll take 3 minutes, you filthy coward. Dragonus, he called you out again. He keeps doing it. He's not gonna stop.
I am starting to think you are a coward.
Fine.
They race, and Dragonus wins. Batrider offers Snotty, but Dragonus declines. Then Batrider says he's going to put down Snotty, to which Dragonus finally accepts to take the bat along with him. This one's purely just for fun, and a decent origin story for Snotty. Oh, Snotty. How blind Batrider was of your potential. The next side quest involves one of the current party members, Centaur. The group travels by the Olmex Arena, where Centaur explains that his belt was slashed during the battle, and only now does he have the chance to repair it. Some paperwork chicanery ensues, and this eventually leads to the outcome that the arena is not responsible for any damages made to the belt. So Centaur offers to fight for a new one. It just so happens that a Valhessan gladiator is in line behind them with a very fancy belt. They fight, Centaur clocks the gladiator into next week, and the trio moves on. This one's alright. It's a bit empty and not really all that comedic outside of the first part. It explains the origins of the Immortal, I guess. The last side quest of Act 2 starts with Sorla Khan waking up Dragonus in the midst of their nightly camp. She has some diplomacy to work and wishes for Dragonus to join her, stating that he might be useful here. She meets with Legion Commander, of all people, and it's revealed that the two had a deal together. If Sorla defeated the Abyssal Horde, the Bronze Legion would pass on conquering Druid. Unexpectedly, the Red Mist defeated the Horde, but it left the Druid withered in terms of military power, and now Legion Commander seeks to take advantage of their weakened state. Sorla tells Legion that she ought to be grateful for what she has done, but also cautious. A victory against the Abyssal Horde means that the Aglodi are no trivial, meager people. So Tresden relents and moves her conquest to western lands. The humor lies in the fact that Dragonus does not speak once during the entire meeting. I thought this was pretty funny, and it offered some decent world building. All these factions are connected, in a way. What happens in one realm has drastic effects on another, and that connectedness is really cool to see in something like Dota. Overall, the story in Act 2 is brilliant. It's mostly comedy focused, but there are hints of greater world building here and there. I can easily see why it's the most liked storyline out of all the acts, and it earns an expected 10 out of 10. But I'm still left wondering why Acts doesn't like dungeons. Act 2 deserves all the praise it gets. The minigames could have been better, and the progression system could use some touches, but everything else about it was pretty much flawless. I often come back and reread this act because of how amazing the dialogue was, and the rewards are equally as valuable. Overall, it gets an 8.5 out of 10 from me. Now we move on to the northern side of the world, to the frozen realm of Icerack.
The season of Halloween is over! No more Thanksgiving! Follow me, and you will never again have an empty Christmas tree! Jolly on!
Act 3 took its time coming out. This act was pretty polarizing for me. Some aspects of this act knocked it out of the park, while others left me hanging my head in disappointment. This act follows Shen's journey through Icerack on her search for Kestrel, and later on, convincing him to take up the sword in Skyrath. Kestrel has been keeping a town safe from a dragon in the meantime, along with his trusty friend Gralla.
A 2001 Cuisinart toaster.
The rewards of Act 3 are quite the step down from the rewards of Act 2, the elephant in the room being the skin you get at the end, made by Oni. Its composition isn't all that good. This red on the belt is far too saturated. The way the skin is composed, it's supposed to draw the eye to the mask. The bird mask is the focal point of this set, yet this red rope belt is just shouting for me to look at it. I wish the wings were animated, since without the animations it looks tacked on, as if this is a costume instead of a reimagining of Void Spirit's character. The gold detailings help recover some of the visual design, but not by much. The glowing effects you can earn for the skin make it so much better. The jarring red of the mask is replaced with either a nice pinkish glow or a royal purple light. Both still have the red belt glaring at me, but the second style is supposed to fit with the 10th anniversary skin, so I can't really knock it for that. The Zaug set for Winter Wyvern made by Mott and I is pretty darn good, but not very outstanding from her other sets. I'll admit that hearing Winter Wyvern's voice coming out of her second cousin is pretty strange. A decent amount of loading screens found here aren't even from this act. They're from the Kez comic. It's a strange decision, but it likely happened for a few reasons. Firstly, the comics of Act 3 didn't have enough material to fill out an entire chest of loading screens. Secondly, there wasn't enough room in the Act 4 loading screen treasure to include both artwork from the Kez comic and the actual comic that introduces the act. This was probably the best way to handle it. I don't see why they couldn't have tossed a few extra loading screen treasures in Act 4 to accompany some of the candy spaces. But anyways, the Pathfinder pack offers a new Spectre set made by Valve, surprisingly. It's themed around Scree'Auk and has a lot of nice touches, from the detailing on the feathers to the animated eyeballs. This one is in league with the few good skins she has in her catalog, and I enjoy using it. As for the Immortal, this one's pretty darn nice. You're definitely getting your money's worth with how much space it covers on Winter Wyvern's body, and it fits seamlessly with her Immortal headpiece. The effect is decent, but nothing to really write home about if I'm being honest. You get a lot out of Act 3 in terms of rewards, and even though the base version of the Void Spirit set could be better, I'm willing to give these rewards an 8 out of 10. The progression for Act 3 isn't much of a step up from the previous Act's progression system. The heroes are distributed incredibly fairly among the token types, and the token trader has a revamp. You can now trade 4 tokens for 2 random tokens, along with the usual scrap method. You can now also use 2 tokens to earn 3 scrap. However, token gifting did not make a return from Act 2. This was a big disappointment for me, and definitely lost this progression a 10. The tokens from minigames are significantly harder to earn than Act 2, which I think is for the better. I'll speak more on this in the next section though, and I'll give Act 3's progression a 9 out of 10.
My end is now. Prepare myself.
The minigames of Act 3 were a step up from the last 2 acts. Each one has insane depth and was worth the wait between Act 2 and Act 3. The first minigame the player encounters is Sleep Fighter. This is a traditional fighting game featuring a roster of Tusk, Marcy, Shen, Dawnbreaker, and Bristleback. Each one has their own moveset, health pool, and specials. Each character has a set of inputs with frame data. If I were to speculate for a spell, I'd say that there are probably a lot of fighting game fanatics in the office over at Valve. You can choose your skin, challenge other friends, and compete on the leaderboard. It's a fun challenge during long queues, and despite the balancing, it's still good fun with impactful animations. Next, further off, we have Dragon Chess. The name alone had me thinking this was going to be a board game that you could also challenge your friends to, but seeing it was a match 3 was a bit of a disappointment. What wasn't disappointing was how challenging it was. This minigame kicked your ass and gave no free handouts. Except for the times that it does. Even then, if you catch the Ancient Apparitional during the heal period, you get nothing. My friends were more competitive over this than the fighting game. Fighting to get to the top of the leaderboard of Dragon Chess was a regular pastime, and I found myself booting up YouTube to listen to while I outscored my friends. What made the actual game fun and challenging was the quote-unquote time limit and the abilities. Each hero crystal has different abilities when you match 4 or 5, some offer healing or lifesteal, while others give you a huge boost of damage or points. The whole point of the game is to get as far as you can before the enemies deplete your health bar. It requires quick thinking and an even quicker hand. Lastly, there is Zaug's Lair. Zaug's Lair is a side-scroller bullet hell. This minigame is easily the hardest one out of the 3. Well, it was for me at least. In Zaug's Lair, you're able to swap between a blue stance and a red stance. The red stance will make you immune to red attacks, and the blue stance will make you immune to blue attacks. If you eliminate enemies of the color you're using, you'll start a combo. The aim of the game is to not only complete it, but to keep a combo chain going for the whole thing and defeat Zaug at the end. The difficulty on this one is a significant jump from Dragon Chess, at least from what I've seen. Some people in my Dota circles had a lot of trouble even completing this. Not to say that this minigame is unfairly hard, but it is a substantial challenge. I didn't enjoy it as much as Dragon Chess or Sleep Fighter, but for the purpose it serves, this was awesome. Overall, the minigames from Act 3 get a 10 out of 10 from me. I can't really find any faults here. Everything is challenging in its own unique way, and each one is loads of fun, either in spite of the challenge, or because of the challenge.
You being intentionally dense?
Act 3's story starts with Shen, Bakeet, and Scree'Auk arriving in Icerack. They land in a small port town and head to a tavern for the night. It's still freezing inside as it was outside, but Scree'Auk manages to find some comfort in it. Meanwhile, Shen shares a drink with Tusk, asking him about the whereabouts of Kestrel and his army of bird people. Tusk points them to Snowcap Lake, stating that Kestrel came through about a week ago. He also tells them that Kestrel likely didn't survive the cold, and neither will they without a premium guide. Shen offers Tusk payment to be a guide, but he declines, rather rudely at that. I felt pretty iffy about Tusk's characterization in this comic. He seems pretty darn grim compared to his usual self. It was pretty jarring to see how serious he was about simply giving directions and refusing to help at all, even for money. The comic ends with some shots of Kestrel at Snowcap Lake looking for the dragon before we cut back to the trio at the tavern. Shen tells Bakeet and Scree'Auk what she discerned from Tusk last night, and they reason that a dragon would be no match for an army of Kazurai. It's here that Scree'Auk tells the two that she's not coming.
What do you mean, you're not coming? This will be a perilous journey. We could use your help.
I gave you and your boyfriend all my powers, remember? Look at you. You're a winged goddess of vengeance. I'm just a fat old bird now. Plus, it's cold.
Bakeet doesn't have powers, and he's coming.
Good. Cut him open for warmth, then. If you want me, I'll be waiting for you back at the tavern under a mountain of blankets by the fire. Oh, stop pouting. You'll be fine. You'll probably be fine.
I think having Scree'Auk stay behind is a good move for the story. With how many characters get introduced in the main storyline, it was going to get crowded. And it makes sense that Scree'Auk would seek comfort. Her whole life, she's been an overpowered deity, but now she's, in her own words, a fat old bird. Anyways, Shen and Bakeet barely leave town before they start freezing to death, and Crystal Maiden comes to inform them that in about half an hour, they'll succumb to the elements. In the next map node, she says hi to them again. Valve, I have a memory. I can remember that Crystal Maiden showed up and told them that they're dying. I don't need a quick recap of the last map node. With that out of the way, Crystal Maiden makes them some coats from the local fauna, and they make their way along the mountain past the snow-capped lake. They discuss the presence of a new dragon in Icerack, and Crystal Maiden takes much interest in this. Upon entering Snow-Capped Lake, we finally meet the famed Kestrel.
Kestrel?
Bakeet, what in the seven hells are you doing in Icerack? And why'd you bring a highborn with you?
This is Princess Shen. Don't worry though, she's not crazy evil. Wait, where are the others?
It's just me and Gralla here.
Hey Gralla. No, I mean the army Kestrel. Where are all the Kazurai?
I think what he's trying to tell you, little bird, is that there is no Kazurai army.
That's right, Highborn. If you're here to gloat, do it quick and get out of here. Gralla and I have a village to protect.
Kestrel then reveals that there is no Kazurai army on account of the temple raid from Act 1. So, Kestrel disbanded his army and retreated into the far reaches of nowhere. He felt terrible fighting for a cause, only for it to result in death and destruction for those foolish enough to fight alongside him. Shen then tries to convince Kestrel to leave, and it almost works, but Kestrel wants to defend the village against the dragon. Crystal Maiden offers a solution: just go and kill the dragon, and she knows just the person to talk about that.
Introducing Crystal Maiden and guests.
Thrael, I explicitly said no interruptions during my hour of contemplation.
He had no choice, Alroth. I ice blasted him.
She did, Master. I am close to death.
Well, all right then. What is it you want, North Warden?
There's a dragon terrorizing Snowcap Lake.
I assure you, I was here reading the whole time.
Huh. That's interesting, considering I never told you when the terrorizing occurred.
What? I didn't. You can't prove.
No, I'm kidding. We knew you didn't do it. We just want your help in finding the dragon who did.
Winter Wyvern agrees to help, and upon the group showing them a tooth lodged in Gralla from an attack, she identifies the dragon as Zaug, her second cousin, once removed on her mother's side. She has the means to kill this dragon, but if Winter Wyvern just gives the weapons to them, she'll be banished from the Eldworm Order. Instead, they have to defeat her in Dragon Chess. Seeing as how her high score was only about 5,000, I don't think she's very good at it. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but seeing this intellectual, studied, learned dragon suck at a match 3 game was somewhat humorous. Anyways, Winter Wyvern gives them the shards of Frostburn, and they locate Zaug. The one problem is that they don't know who should kill the dragon. Shen and Kez have their own reasons, both of which sound equally reasonable. They meet Zaug, and Zaug pulls a Smaug, promising to pay Snowcap Lake one final visit before departure.
He's getting away! He's going to kill everyone! Maiden, stop him!
I can't fly! Kez, you're gonna have to do it after all. Here's the shards. Go! Fly! Fly like the wind, brave bird! I know I said it was really hard to kill a dragon, and it is, but I believe in you! You can do it! Go, go, go!
I honestly can't. I can't fly.
Oh my god. Okay, Gralla, Bakeet, you're up. Go, go, go!
No, we're all flightless.
None of you can fly?
I'll be right back.
Shen flies off to face the dragon, as depicted in the Zaug's Lair minigame. The dragon is slain, and everyone is shocked at Shen's achievement. The shards of Frostburn crumble to dust, and our heroes head back to town, parading Zaug's head all the way. They return to find Scree'Auk has really overcharged the tab at the tavern, and Kez finally prepares himself to return to Skywrath, but is somewhat skeptical that Shen has what it takes to rule. This storyline is pretty decent. I love the background it gives to Kez, and does a really nice job at characterizing him. I can't help but feel that this act is a bit cluttered with characters. In Act 2, we had Dragonus, Axe, and Centaur, but here we have a huge cast for the main party. Shen, Bakeet, Kez, Gralla, and Crystal Maiden. It gets really muddled that this is Shen's part of the story, as so much focus is given to Kestrel and Crystal Maiden. Even with Scree'Auk out of the picture, every character just seems to be struggling with the spotlight, and the additional characters like Winter Wyvern just make it even more cluttered. But maybe the side quests can outweigh the issues that the main storyline has. The first one we encounter begins with Pangolier waving down Crystal Maiden before we get into town. He's looking for a lost ziggurat to plunder, and reassures Crystal Maiden that he is a fully licensed adventurer. And Crystal Maiden wants to come along. Shen and Bakeet decide to skip out on this one, relieving a bit of the character clutter that permeates this act. Anyways, Cean and Pango move on, but before they reach the ziggurat, they have a cave to clear. This cave, of course, belongs to none other than Broodmother, and her husband, Philip. Of course, Brood is outraged that another adventurer has crossed into her property, and explains how adventurers have been a non-stop problem for years.
Long ago, a priest king they called the Vizier of Greed erected a massive ziggurat on the other side of my cave.
That is the same ziggurat we seek, filled with riches beyond imagining. In which direction might we find it, Spider Queen?
You won't. That's why he erected it on the other side of my home. He knew anyone who came looking for the ziggurat would have to get through me first. Not that he asked me, of course. Suddenly I had scores of adventuring morons.
Dante Panin, at your service.
Adventuring morons tromping through my house, looking to steal treasure and kill monsters. It was too dangerous an environment to raise my babies in.
I love danger.
Hush, Bibbit. No, you don't. I was spending my entire day killing adventurers, which left me very little time to look after the kids. Since the Vizier of Greed was responsible for this mess,
It's just Philip now.
I captured Philip and gave him a choice. Help me raise my babies, or be webbed up and be slowly devoured by my babies.
Through a wayward description of the treasure, it's revealed that there's only magnets in the ziggurat. No gold, or jewels, or gemstones. Only magnets. Upon this revelation, Broodmother is understandably quite upset, and Pangolier agrees to tell everyone that the grand treasure of the lost ziggurat is a bunch of magnets, ensuring no adventurer tread thither again. This side quest is alright, purely a comedy sketch, but a nice nod to Broodmother's lore bio. Pangolier's presence is always a delight though, but maybe that's just my bias towards the character. The next side quest is the best side quest in the entire event. It offers genuine character growth and engaging character chemistry between Crystal Maiden and Lena. It starts with a mountain exploding with fire. Of course, the party notices this, since mountains don't typically explode. CM has an idea of who caused the explosion, and it is an alchemist. The party detects some bad blood between Crystal Maiden and Lena, but CM reveals that she actually loves her sister, and that she only hates her sometimes. Shen recommends reconciliation, and Crystal Maiden fires back with the fact that Shen is on a quest to kill her sister. Anyways, they go up the mountain and meet some dude named Geraldus. Geraldus is Crystal Maiden and Lena's father. He burned down an entire grove of everwood trees to grab her attention. Crystal Maiden doesn't exactly admire this decision, but hears him out anyways. Geraldus reveals that some dangerous people are looking for him, and he needs help. The collectors turn up, followed by Lena, and the scene is set. It's revealed that Geraldus stole money from the Lich Mafia, and the money was going to be used to pay off his wife's gambling debt. Both sisters realized how messed up their parents are as a result. Throughout their entire childhood, Lena and Siam's parents used them to exploit systems, from insurance scams to faking deaths. All of this ignited a rivalry between the sisters, and they had no idea their parents were behind it the whole time. Anyways, the collectors offered Geraldus a job, seeing as how he knows what he's doing when it comes to fraud and theft. After he leaves with them, we get an amazing scene between the sisters.
All this time we've estranged ourselves from our family and each other, Rylai, because we blamed each other for breaking up the family.
And it was just Mom and Dad all along? Wow!
Exactly, dear sister. We don't actually have to hate each other.
Wow. Well, you did burn my favorite doll.
Because you froze my head.
Your head was on fire.
My head is always on fire. It is what my head does. Perhaps it's too soon to try to be friends. But I would like very much if we could stop being enemies, Rylai.
Deal. Should we hug or something? I feel like we should hug.
Of course not. I'd incinerate you in seconds.
What? I'd put out your flames instantly and freeze you solid, and you know it.
I'm not getting into this again. Until next time, sister.
Fine. But before you go,
Yes?
I would put out your flames instantly and freeze you solid.
Goodbye, Rylai.
This side quest was perfect for Lena and Crystal Maiden, and the way they interact is really nice and satisfying for a sibling rivalry. You can really tell that they want to connect with each other, but still play footsies around truly reconciling. After the parental escapade, the following side quest features a detour. Crystal Maiden states how she always has to replace a keep out sign since the sorcerer that lives up there is always taking it down. It's revealed that this sorcerer is Lich, and he's less than happy about seeing trespassers. Crystal Maiden and Lich shout at each other for a bit before Shen explains the dilemma to Lich, that the sign keeps people out. It's another misunderstanding quest, and it butchers Lich's characterization. From voice lines to his taunt, Lich is characterized as a cool, calm, and collected guy, despite wanting to dish out bone-chilling levels of violence. But here, cranky old bastard who don't want no trespassers. Gah. A Lich cameo was my biggest hope for this act, but this is terrible. I don't know how this happened. Easily the biggest disappointment from this act, bar none. Lich can read, you know. I don't get why he's so grumpy and frustrated. That's not his character. Even in a game, he doesn't get upset over failed chain frosts or anything. He'll just say, "Not my best work," and move on. Lich's character is so much fun, and it's the only reason I play him, but this is not Lich. The last side quest of this act actually doesn't feature a unique hero, similar to the Centaur quest from Act 2. Instead, this features Winter Wyvern on a quest to reclaim her stolen treasure. A bit of an ironic take on The Hobbit, if you ask me. This treasure is the Orb of Slithel, an artifact that has the means to summon a Slytherin Elder God. It's questioned who would be dumb enough to want to do something like that, and Crystal Maiden has an answer. The Sunken Brotherhood of Fathom. The Sunken Brotherhood of Fathom is most likely responsible, so the party pays them a visit at the local lighthouse with the aim of taking back the orb. We then cut to inside the lighthouse, where some antics between the cult members take place. One of the cult members was away when lots were drawn for sacrifice, and the one guy who wasn't there ended up losing. How convenient. Anyways, we cut back to the party who have just arrived at the lighthouse. Crystal Maiden and Gralla enter through the first floor, while Shen flies Kestrel up to the top. Between map nodes, it's revealed that the cult captured Bakeet. It's not communicated well, and it surprised me, but not in a good way. Anyways, more arguing among the cult members takes place, and Kestrel just goes on a rampage through them. The cult hastily summons Ugnatu, who begins devouring the monks. The party talk to the monk, who is going to be sacrificed, and he says that for a banishment ritual, they need yet another sacrifice. They look to the headmaster of the cult for this, and complete the ritual. The orb is secured, and the last cult member gets a job as Lighthouse Keeper, and the side quest is over. This one's pretty good. The interactions between the cult members is really funny, and it was definitely inspired by Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Act 3's story has some really glaring issues, but most of the side quests make up for it with good humor and fantastic character chemistry. It might be bloated, and it certainly pales in comparison to Act 2, but it earns a solid 7 out of 10 for its troubles. Act 3 was a really fun time, all things considered. The rewards you get out of this act are pretty good, but could always be better, and it really had me hyped up for the final, concluding act of Crownfall. But I was pretty sadly mistaken about how far off in the future that would be. Act 3 earns an 8.5 out of 10 from me. Flawless in all aspects except the story, which definitely could use some brushing up. Here, we break the act-by-act formula for a second to review the Kez comic, Ascension Night. It was released before the 4th act, so I see it fit to review it now. This comic takes place in Kez's inner monologue, and we get some decent world building explaining the class system between the Flightless and the Topsiders. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense why the Queen's Guard would cut the ladders. It seems like it would be more efficient to just pull them up, as it saves resources and time. But it's only a small nitpick. Anyways, next we get Kez's attempt at a prison break. Before the prison break happens, we witness a flashback of Kez getting kicked out of the Shodo Order due to his recklessness and lack of discipline. Anyways, the prison break is more than successful, but some of the prisoners seem to be actually shady people rather than victims of oppression. He doesn't have time to sort through everyone's moral compass, so he just sets everyone free. After the prison break, Kez is approached by Craw, a wizened old one-eyed Flightless with a cane. Craw was present at Kez's banishment from the Shodo Order, and we get a nice exchange between them.
Brother Sparto had it out for me. If I hadn't broken his stupid egg, I'd still be—
It was 4 votes to expel ya, 1 against.
Well, thanks for your vote, I guess.
No, I was one of the 4 who voted to expel you. The 1 vote was Brother Warble. He was sick, probably senile. I doubt he was paying attention. He died later that day.
Great, well, it was nice catching up. I'm just gonna enjoy being a local hero and go talk to literally anyone else.
You were not ready then. You are now.
Uh-huh. And what makes you think I'd want to join your crappy Shodo Order now?
I am no longer with the Shodo.
Ha! They kicked you out too, huh?
No, the Shodo had become rotted from the inside. They had lost their way. I attempted to convince them. It became heated. I was put in prison. You broke me out last night. I do not need the Shodo Order, and neither do you. I am starting a new order. You will be my first student.
You know, not for nothing, but I did single-handedly break you out last night. What makes you think I even need a teacher?
Because I can teach you this.
Why'd you put your cane down? Is that a fighting stance? Are we— Oh! Come on, don't make— Yes, okay. You should— You teach me that.
Come, I will teach you much in time.
Cool, but teach me that first.
What an amazing introduction to this character. When it comes to heroes, Valve has a habit of foregoing the lore and leaving it as a text blurb. But for the last 3 releases, each new hero has received a comic. I don't know if Muertos was exactly a comic, but it was an extended story nonetheless. Each of these has escalated with quality, and I hope every hero release going forward comes with a comic. I personally like to be invested in the character I'm playing as, so these comics are magnets for people like me to try new heroes. Anyways, good comic, go read it. I left out a lot of details that are definitely worth going back for. Alright, on to Act 4. It took over 100 days for Act 4 to be released. 100 days after Act 3. The initial ending point of the entire event was August 16th, and now it's bleeding into next year, or this year, depending on when this video comes out. I am baffled. I knew Valve wasn't going to uphold their original schedule, but I was oh so wrong about how late they would be. If anything, the fact that the last quarter of this event was delayed so much should be a wake-up call for Valve. Their development process for Dota 2 is facing some major deadline issues, and there is no communication with the community whatsoever. What I want to know is why this act took so long. What development issues was Valve facing, and how do we know that they're aiming to fix said issues? Valve needs to stop doing this, I'm sorry. You can't just leave your player base in the dark for months on end, only to drop an update and stay silent for another 5 months. This is ridiculous, and no other major game developer does this. Riot Games communicates everything to their players, from blogs to trailers to bi-weekly patch notes. Mojang delivers experimental patches to Minecraft with new features as well as blog updates and YouTube videos. Even EA communicates with their player base. Granted, most of it is EA trying to sell them something, but it's better than radio silence. We get next to nothing from Valve until the day of, if not, then the day prior. No sneak peeks, minimal blog posts, and no release dates. The only thing we got about Act 4 before it's released was this little avian asshat slicing up some banners for a few seconds. But perhaps this is all a little unfair. Maybe Valve was cooking something huge that would shake the player base to its core. Maybe the conclusion to Crownfall will be so satisfying in all aspects that it was worth twiddling our thumbs for over 100 days. Maybe it was all worth the wait. Act 4 sees the fall of the Crown, hence the event name. It's unique in that it starts on 3 separate paths that all converge into one. Act 4 is the sacking of Skywrath, done via the Kazurai, the Red Mist, and the heroes that Shen and Dragonus have encountered throughout the event. The previous acts were all bangers in their own right, so let's see if Valve can stick the landing.
Howard! When are you gonna run, my man? You're driving me nuts!
The rewards in Act 4 are nothing new. Loading screens, sprays, candy, double down tokens, etc, etc. What I have a problem with is the skin. Juggernaut has enough skins. Seriously, this is a bigger problem than the Invoker skin, since he just has so many. He also got a Collector's Cash skin, so I don't understand why he got one here. Yes, he's in the event, but a skin for Juggernaut at the very end of Crownfall doesn't seem fitting at all. Maybe something for Kez would be cool, or sets specifically made for both Sky and Venge Arcanas. The skin is good, but I really dislike how this is a Juggernaut skin. Another notable reward is the Ricky Knife. In the encounter, it's a knockoff of the original blade, so its rarity is common, which I find very humorous. Then there's Snotty, which looks adorable. This immortal has a tough time fitting into Batrider's other sets, and the effect itself is kind of bad. I understand they probably had to differentiate it from Bristle Snot, but the color choice on this effect is simply a single hue with no dynamism, and it's not even consistent with the liquid we see on the actual model itself. The Bloodseeker immortal is great, it fits with his existing immortals, but the spell effect is just really bad. This bright neon burst of blood is jarring to say the least, and doesn't fit well with the other spell effects of the other immortals. Furthermore, it has the potential to confuse newer players, or players that don't read patch notes. Seeing this, some might think that Rupture is an AoE ability, even though it isn't. Maybe this effect hints at Rupture becoming AoE in a future patch? We'll have to wait and see. The effect of worms wriggling out of the target is a nice touch though. The towers that come with the Pathfinder pack definitely need some work. Their models look nice, but there are some glaring issues here. First of all, they do not shoot custom projectiles. The purple Scree'Auk tower will still shoot the orange fireballs of the Dire. Secondly, they turn towards their target. I was under the impression that these towers were statues, much like the default ones, but they turn to face their target. This aspect really drives them down for me, as it just looks a bit goofy. I'm glad we didn't get another animated tower, as we have a bit too many for my liking, but I just wish these were handled better. The rewards of Act 4 certainly have their ups and downs. A lot could have been better in the Immortal Effects department, and the final skin should have been for someone more fitting than Juggernaut. 6 out of 10.
Gordon, you lousy motherfucker. Get your dork ass down to the test chamber, or else I will shove the sample up your ass. And stop fucking with the microwave!
The token trading system is exactly the same as Act 3. However, the heroes are distributed sparingly among the token types, making it a lot more strict on what heroes you can play for specific tokens. Granted, you can still scrap your way through everything. The token gifting system makes a return from Act 2 and introduces a way to see what token each friend needs. This would later be integrated into Act 2's gifting system as well. Tokens, of course, can be earned through minigames, but the minigames this time around are exceptionally challenging, so getting them will eat up a lot of time. The token gifting definitely bumps this up one more point than Act 3, and progressing through Act 4 is notably more different because of the token spread, and earning the minigame tokens can be quite frustrating. As mentioned before, this act is separated into 3 separate lanes that all converge into one. To access the final area, you have to complete all 3 of them. This will require a Kez token earned from the right lane, a Shen token earned from the middle lane, and a minigame involving Spoon from the left lane. This spin on the usual Crownfall format is alright. It's fun and offers a variety of choices to the player. This way there are a lot of heroes one can play to progress, rather than being stuck on only one track. This alone earns Act 4's progression a 10 out of 10. The minigames in Act 4 pull no punches when it comes to quality and difficulty. Going from the bottom up, we first encounter Castle Carnage. This is an Angry Birds themed minigame involving Snapfire with a newly created turret for Mortimer produced by Squee. It works pretty much like Angry Birds. You aim, you pick your ammo, you shoot. The goal is to kill all the enemies using the least amount of ammo. The less ammo you use, the more stars you earn. You don't need to 3-star all of the 9 levels to proceed, but doing so will reward you with some tokens and a Squee showcase decoration. Doing this on my first try was really challenging, and when I went back to 3-star all the levels, it took me a good 40 minutes to complete. I had to look up a guide for the last level, since completing it really does take some extra brain power and skill. This minigame was definitely more frustrating than fun for me, and is easily the worst minigame here. Don't even get me started on hard mode. The next minigame we come across is Spleen Sweeper. If the title didn't give it away already, this is a Minesweeper game, with some twists here and there. Firstly, you're on a time limit. Normally, the clock ticks up in Minesweeper, but here, it's ticking down, requiring fast thinking on your end. Secondly, you have Echo Slash. Echo Slash lets you click on a square to reveal it without the threat of death. It comes in handy during 50-50 scenarios, and takes out the RNG that regular Minesweeper can troll you with. Echo Slash takes 50 mana to use out of your 250 mana pool, meaning you can only use it 5 times before running out, so use it very sparingly. Thirdly, you can replenish both time and mana with items throughout your playthrough. Clocks restore a chunk of time, and Clarities will restore 25 mana. They always appear on undiscovered squares, but they are not guaranteed to spawn on safe squares. Should you flag a square with an item, it will move to another one nearby. These items don't stay on the map forever though. They will time out eventually, so don't slack on picking them up. To get past, you only need to complete stage 1, but if you want some bonus tokens and a Spleen showcase decoration, you can do all 5 stages and get 35,000 points. This one is pretty darn easy if you understand Minesweeper. The future stages are certainly a challenge though, since they increase in difficulty and size the further you go. If you're impulsive and impatient like me, yeah, good luck even reaching stage 5 in the first place. The second to last minigame is Spoon Man. This one involves Spoon blasting its way through the Talos Gate in a Bomberman-like fashion. It's good fun and provides a decent challenge. Said challenge is a little undermined once you pick up the remote bombs. Once you have them, the only thing you really have to worry about is not trapping yourself in with them. You only need 5,000 points to get through it, but you can go back and do multiple stages for some tokens and a spoon decoration. As you go through the stages, difficulty will increase with key rooms, different enemy types, and bomb droppers. Though the bomb droppers often help you more than they hinder you. Personally, I had a surprising amount of fun with this one, and even though I got all the tokens, I still come back and play it for fun. And to see if I can beat this guy on my friends list for the high score. It feels like an insult calling Nest of Thorns a mini-game. It's pretty much an entirely new game mode. If you've ever played Vampire Survivors or similar games, this minigame is akin to that. But the amount of depth that Valve poured into this thing is astounding. You have a choice of 3 heroes, Kez, Shen, and Dragonus. Each one starts with a different ability, and each one has a different passive. Dragonus gets a bonus projectile, Shen deals more physical damage to those who have taken magic damage, and Kez moves faster with a chance to mark a target for a crit and a bash. The aim of the game is to survive for 12 minutes in the palace court. All the while, increasingly powerful enemies will come at you, ranging from skeletons to satyrs to catapults. This gameplay is sprinkled with some character dialogue that can be charming and funny, but I find it distracting most of the time, as it takes up a decent chunk of screen space. Every 4 minutes, you can opt to take on a mini-boss. There are 4 of them, 3 of which are barely notable in terms of difficulty, and 1 that is teeth-gnashingly annoying. The Granite Legion, Wailing Mass, and Evershade are just bosses that walk at you, while the Cinder Guard can frankly throw themselves from the balcony Vengeful Spirit style. It's a team of 6 archers that shoot flaming arrows at you. Not at the same time, mind you, so dodging their arrows in a pattern will be a challenge. Not to mention, only one archer is vulnerable at a time, meaning that you not only have to maneuver around the existing enemies, but also dodge flaming arrows and hover around the vulnerable one until it dies. Every time I see the Cinderguard RNG itself into existence, I roll my eyes and consider not even fighting it, but fighting it is definitely worth it for the reward. A shiny new Aghanim Scepter, which will massively buff one of your abilities and also drop from the other 3 bosses upon defeat. Most Scepter upgrades will just be a double damage with extra steps, while others will grant you an extra life, or effectively remove the cooldown entirely. Items are also pickups you can acquire. They can be found around the map or dropped from these glowing Roshans. They can be upgraded, and you can only hold 6. Some items can be combined, like Yasha, Kaya, and Sanj, eventually being compiled into a trident, and Heart of Tarask, which can be built from a Reaver and a Tarask ring. At the end of the 12 minutes, you will enter the Throne Room to face Imperia herself. She has a few abilities to watch out for, from AoE lingering effects to summoning enemies to turning the game into Toho for a few seconds. You can just hide behind the pillars if you don't want to deal with that though. Should you complete this minigame, you will have higher difficulties available to you. Completing each of the higher difficulties, you'll be rewarded with a spray or a voice line or something of that matter. The one aspect I don't like about this minigame is how grindy it is. No, I'm not talking about the actual game here. I mean you have to get more tokens to buy permanent upgrades. This really ticked me off. I wanted to play Nest of Thorns, not take a 3-hour long break to earn some tokens and come back. It's the one gripe I have with this minigame, and outside of it, Nest of Thorns is a great minigame and a fantastic conclusion to the event. The minigames of Act 4 are stellar. They may just be clones of other games, but the Dota twist that's put on them makes them very enjoyable and challenging. A 10 out of 10. Easily.
Behold! 1,000 cereals. I collect cereals. It took me 9 years to collect the cereals.
I hope you've been enjoying the voice acted segments because there's going to be a lot of them here. Act 4 starts like all the others, with a comic. We see a Queensguard lounging about in a tower, sleeping with a book at his leisure, since no army could possibly get past the gate outside. Vigilance unnecessary. He's then woken up by Axe, who informs him that the South Spire's been taken, and he pulls the lever to open the gates. Axe then offers the guard an ultimatum. Either have his wings pulled off so he can't raise the alarm, or fly far, far away from Skywrath and settle down elsewhere. Of course, the guard takes this option, and it's revealed that he was reading an Aglotti poet by the name of Catrog. The comic ends with an excerpt of his writings.
There is no better silence than the one that comes before a battle starts. Once steel meets shield and fighting has begun, we rise to practice all our bloody arts. And yet there comes a type of vicious calm amidst the pain and glory of the field that seems to me to be a shooting balm for restless thoughts and wounds that have not healed. We trade in death, both given and received, and rally to the warriors who survive, leaving our foes with spears and skulls both cleaved, and that is when our people are alive. But damned be those who will not stand and fight. For all who live comes death as our birthright.
The poetry amidst the violence of the battle was an amazing way to start the conclusion. Hype riled within me as I read this and beheld the 3 lanes of the map. We'll go from right to left on the map, since narratively it makes the most sense to me. We start with Kez's path as he joins Axe and Centaur up the right lane of Skywrath. Kez's path starts with some enjoyable banter between Axe, Centaur, and the Birdman himself as they make their way through the city. The group discusses leadership for a spell before running into a minefield. They meet a funky little Cean who said he planted the bombs because Imperia told him to. He says that he'll remove the bombs if they pay him, and they start counting their coins.
Alright, everybody shut up. How much do we have on us?
I'm broke.
A centaur's wealth is measured in the deeds of his ancestors and the speed of his blade.
I'm gonna assume that means 0, and I've got nothing. Gralla?
10.
10 times? Oh, okay, 10 gold, shit.
I'll do it for 10 gold.
You got paid 10,000 gold to lay all these mines, and you'll clear them all for 10.
Are you trying to talk him out of this?
Alright, never mind sold. You remember where all the mines are, right?
I definitely remember where I put the first one, I think. No, wait.
Right. Nobody step anywhere
Having the techies here is more fitting than it seems. We find out later on that Imperia has done a lot of shady stuff, so hiring some shady people would certainly be par for the course. Not to say that Techies Demolition is a shady business, but they have a way of doing their job, a little too well. After some minesweeping shenanigans, the party makes their way through, nearing the Talos Gate. It's here that Kez and Axe continue their discussion on leadership.
So, Kez, after we kill this evil queen of yours, what's the plan?
What do you mean?
Well, you've got a whole army of sword bird guys. Are you gonna take over the kingdom?
Well, that was the original plan. Now, I'm not so sure.
Meaning you could get out of it?
Get out of it? Why wouldn't I want to rule a kingdom?
Look, man, I ran a country once and it's the stupidest bunch of bullshit you've ever heard in your life. Do you know what tariffs are?
Not really.
That makes two of us. And guess what? If you do it wrong, everyone starves to death. What about waste treatment? Annual budgets? Guild diplomacy?
No, and no.
Starve to death, starve to death, starve to death.
These feel like really good bonding moments between the two. And not only does it have two excellent characters interact in a really neat way, but it's also funny. It's here that Axe, Centaur, Kez, and Gralla are stopped by the Talos Gate, and I suppose now is a good time to move on to the side quests of the Right Lane. The first one we encounter is right at the start. Here, Juggernaut sees Kez and instantly recognizes him as the swordman that he sought from Midgate. Kez thinks they're about to duel, but Juggernaut says otherwise.
Sheath your sword, my friend. I was looking for you because I thought you were my brother.
I was just thinking that. You guys are practically twins. You both use swords, you both wear masks.
What the hell are you talking about? I'm not wearing a mask.
Wait, you actually have a bird head?
He is clearly lying to amuse us, Axe. Ha ha ha. Very amusing, Swordbird.
For the record, you're both the last two guys to be making jokes about who has a dumb-looking head.
Why should we not be making these jokes? What are you saying?
I'm saying you have a dumb-looking head.
What?
I can see the three of you are busy. Idiots. Have you seen Scree'Auk?
Not since we climbed the ladders up here. Why?
I wanted to thank her for telling me I have a sister. And I wanted to introduce her to my sister.
They meet Juggernaut's sister, Serena. This is a payoff from the whispers that Scree'Auk gave Juggernaut during a side quest in Act 1. Axe and Centaur then want to see which two of the swordsmen present is the best at fighting. This leads to a long, drawn-out argument that results in two things. 1, Juggernaut has a sister, and 2, Juggernaut and his sister are going to help in this fight. This side quest is a big old nothing burger. It's pretty darn funny, but it's not really meaningful outside of the comedy. Compared to the other side quests in the event, it doesn't hold up all that well. The second side quest we get on this side sees the return of the skeletons from Act 2. They've hired Gondar to come back and kill them. It's then revealed that skeletons don't really die, they're spirits inhabiting skeletons. So Axe points to a guard tower, and Gondar easily counts the corpses to 200, more than enough for the skeleton's family to come back. There's a comedic jab at Axe's kill count, and our heroes move on. I thought this one was fine. It's kind of hard to take Gondar seriously as to whether or not he could really take on Axe and Centaur at once. But the humor was nice. Now we move on to the middle lane, where Shen, Bakeet, and Scree'Auk are making their way along. An argument breaks out among Scree'Auk and Shen about who killed the dragon. I really don't like how the writers use Scree'Auk in this act. She's always been petty, but she's against fighting for the cause that she started in the first place. In the Ascension Day comic and in Act 1, Scree'Auk was such a neat character, but here they really flubbed it in my opinion. They also run into Snapfire, who's working with Squee to demolish the wall in front of them. I imagine Squee also was paid by Queen Imperia, but Snapfire paid for the modifications.
Mortimer and I were so touched by your brother's story, we'd figure we'd come up and help if we could.
He's not.
We were starting to feel a little out of our depth, but then we met this handsome helper here.
Just wrapping up, I reinforced the harness with a lightweight mithril alloy. That'll protect your toad, but not slow it down. Cannons are perfectly balanced right between the shoulders. Keep the toad's center of gravity nice and low, so it won't tip over when you fire it. Now, these runes here along the belt are shatter wards. They'll help with shock absorption. You'll need that for...
Would you get a load of this dumb biscuit? Mortimer, you look like a 5-star general!
Now, as for the bill, I figure with the parts and labor, we're looking at... Let's see. 5, 50, carry 1, 50,000 gold.
Put it on my tab, darling. Let's go cause some trouble, Mortimer.
Trouble is indeed caused, and the wall is crumbled, allowing our heroes to proceed. Along their way, they run into some Avilava statues, which entice Bakeet to touch them through the promise of sardines. Bakeet gets possessed and warns Scree'Auk and Shen that she has something much more sinister planned. This is where their trail ends, and we move over to Dragonus and Crystal Maiden, who have taken up the left-hand lane. These two have some playful dialogue as they fly into town, and Crystal Maiden is dead set on meeting her old mentor Idrix. Idrix turns out to be running a cult. Idrix appeals to Dragonus' better nature, and they move on through the city. They then come to the Talos Gate, where their progress would be stopped if it weren't for the peculiar-looking fellow in a barrel.
So what? There's nothing we can do?
Sadly not. The only way to breach the Talos Gate would be from inside.
I could do it.
You could?
Sure. I could just sneak in through the crack in the wall there.
Great!
Find the gate on the unenchanted side.
Wow!
Pile all these bombs next to it.
That is a lot of bombs.
And kaboom. No more Talos Gate.
Well, this is perfect.
But it'll cost you.
Oh.
Dragonus has nothing, but CM reveals to be carrying around 200,000 gold due to her essentially doing the job of 6 heroes at once. They pay Spoon a hefty amount, and he works his magic. This is decent. Most of it is taken up by the encounter with Idrix, which really doesn't change the story all that much outside of a gag that ends with one of the most base statements known to man. But yeah, this part of the map feels like a side quest narratively. Also, I really wish the writers would make up their minds. Is this bat called Sniffy or Snotty? The left-turn side quests are a mixed bag, and there's only 2 of them. The first one features a Bloodseeker cameo. It starts with Dragonus and Crystal Maiden deciding to visit a vampire doctor, assuming that Snotty, or Sniffy, is a vampire bat. Surprisingly, Dragonus doesn't object to this. This is his war. Why on earth would he wait for hours in a waiting room? Anyways, they learn from the only other patient there that he has crimson bloat, a disease vampires suffer from where they can't digest blood, so it's just sloshing around in there. Anyways, Bloodseeker enters in a doctor's outfit and tells the lone patient to come in. Crystal Maiden recognizes Bloodseeker, and they have a hushed discussion about this new blood farming scheme that he's come up with. He doesn't cure his patients, only drains them. Bloodseeker then notices the sick bat and offers them some medicine. As it turns out, bats are very common in Zodicotl. Oh, how do you say that? As it turns out, bats are very common in Jakatokatl. Oh, brother. As it turns out, bats are very common in Jakatokatl, and this way of treating cavern cough is well known in that region. This one's pretty darn inconsequential. Another hero cameo for fans of said hero. Bloodseeker doesn't have much of a personality, and turning him into a grifter is a pretty humorous direction to take his character. I wonder if he can see all the dying soldiers outside. The last side quest sees the return of Pudge. He's chowing down on some Queensguard, which Dragonus does not take lightly.
You can't eat these men.
Why?
These aren't animals. They had hopes and dreams and families.
Oi, you want to talk? You've been killing them all day.
Of course, I have fought bravely and killed many men this day.
Well, if all those blokes had kids, ain't you orphaned a lot of them? How's that any less evil than eating them? If anything, I'm doing them a kindness. Rotting on the ground for the poor orphan kids to see. Their fat, bloated mugs frozen in a silent scream. Kids shaking their bodies. Daddy, wake up! He ain't waking up, little Tommy. Fancy wings saw to that.
Stop this at once. I am not the villain here. I am a hero.
Same here. And heroing's hungry work.
Guys, this is getting really philosophical. But I think we're all missing the point here, which is that this stuff is delicious.
This interaction in specific is really good, and I think Pudge genuinely got into Dragonus' head here, making him question if what he was doing was really in the right. War really is a tragedy. Also, crazy that CM just starts eating him too. I knew she was psychotic, but this is a bit much. Anyways, Dragonus eventually convinces Pudge to eat the Iglodi instead, before dipping back to the main action. Now, with the Talus Gate down, all of our heroes reunite, ready to march into the Nest of Thorns.
Dragonus, my love! I feared I'd never see you again.
I am duty-bound to remain by your side.
Dragonus, you are duty bound to remain by Imperia's side.
I ruined the moment, didn't I?
No. It doesn't matter. It's great to see you, sweetie.
Hey, buddy. How'd it go with the princess?
We helped a gremlin put cannons on a toad. Then I prayed to a statue for sardines and got possessed by a god.
Cool. Why are you so damp?
Maiden, what the hell are you doing here?
I'm on vacation. Why are you here?
You know me. I couldn't bear to see injustice done. I heard about this evil queen, oppressing birds and...
I'm still not gonna date you, Axe.
Can't blame me for trying. Nah, I'm just here to kill people.
Me too!
Axe, you told the fat cannibal he could eat Queensguard if he helped us.
In my defense, I only made that deal behind your back so I wouldn't have to hear you whining about it.
Well, I negotiated the deal so that he is eating your people now.
I guess I had that coming. Plus, if you had to find out about one of the deals I made behind your back, I'm glad it's this one.
Wait. What?
Gennaro, you found her. Pleased to meet you, young lady.
If there's ever anything we could do for you in return...
Funny you should mention that. We're about to fight an evil queen.
Of course. Anything.
So, everyone's going to be too distracted for an hour or so to notice a few hundred little acts of arson. You see all those ugly, combustible Avila statues littering the city?
You again? What do you want now?
To kill you, of course.
What? We already took care of this, Gondar.
You are not my bounty, Mogul Khan. She is.
Me? What the heck did I do?
That's her! That's the woman who killed my baby!
Batrider, what are you doing here?
This uprising of yours is drawing big money bets from all over White Spire. I've got a lot riding on you myself.
Thank you.
It's a four-way parlay. You, Red Ape, Centaur, and my bat all need to get killed.
I think he is my bat now.
Wait, what's this? What'd you do to him? He looks great.
Dear gods, he does. In all the confusion, I lost track of him. I guess Dr. Bloody What's-His-Name knew what he was talking about.
Well, you're right. He belongs with you. And Red and the Centaur. Especially since I need all of you too. Well, anyway, don't let me stop you all from charging into battle or something. Good luck. Bye. Goodbye.
Alright, everybody reunited?
Indeed. Now Skyrash shall be restored to its former glory.
Soon enough, Dragonus. But first, let's go kill my sister.
Following this reunion, we get a comic from Imperia's point of view. She states that the Techies had rigged one last explosion beneath the bridge, which would rain rubble down on the temple of Avilva, where the Flightless have gathered for safety. The rubble will kill them, and their souls will fuel Imperia's great power. She opens a hell portal and welcomes in her mercenary army to greet the intruders. Back to the heroes, and they are given a choice by the Counselor. Only one person can face Imperia at a time, and it's narrowed down to Kez, Dragonus, and Shen. It's here that we make our decision in the Nest of Thorns game, and the fight begins. After over 12 minutes of action, Imperia is defeated, and we're treated to a final ending cinematic.
Do it then. Pull my wings off. Cast me out of my own kingdom. Leave me to rot in the...
No, sister. You were always the dramatic one. I've got a kingdom to run.
What a conclusion to Crownfall. I have a few problems with this act, but the ending cinematic was genuinely a welcome surprise. I was honestly expecting Valve to give us another segment of visual novel, but this is awesome, and a fitting payoff to end the whole event. Anyways, the 3-lane aspect of this act's story really helps alleviate the clutter of characters, and it makes it an enjoyable reading experience. Not a lot of character development happens here since Dragonus, Shen, and Kez have no other development to go through. It feels a bit too comedic, but the tone set by the comic was able to uphold the epic scale of this whole story. The incredible final cinematic was all worth the effort, and the Crownfall theme that plays at the end of it was an amazing touch. Act 4's story earns a respectable 9 out of 10. Act 4 was such a darn good send-off for Crownfall, from the epic scale of the final quarter, to the depth of the minigames, and the challenging yet rewarding progression. What a complete package. Act 4 gets a 9 out of 10 from me. And yes, I'll be the first to say it was worth the wait. As for the full event, I think Crownfall was awesome. A lore event of this scale hasn't happened since Siltbreaker, and even then, Crownfall surpasses Siltbreaker entirely. This event had some major flaws in the scheduling process and in the writing, but I think Valve will get the hang of things should they choose to do another event like this. I honestly hope they do another event like this, as it was a nice spin on the Battle Pass system. Of course, Valve wasn't going to hit the nail on the head with something like this, and going forward they will try better. It was a blast watching all the heroes we've come to know and love band together for one great adventure, spanning across vast swaths of the Dota 2 universe. From the fun, goofy moments between Axe, Centaur, and Dragonus, to the depthful character of Kez, this event helped make Dota 2 heroes actual characters, rather than just functions in a video game. As for the future, I do have a wish list of Crownfall-esque events that I would like to share for a moment. 1. A Court of Restool focused event involving Queen of Pain and Razor teaming up to take it down. 2. An event about the Great Confluence that would include Arcanas for all 4 Spirit Brothers. 3. An event with Ringmaster that involves heroes escaping the circus Jigsaw style. The only one I could see becoming real is the Spirit Bros one, but a scarecrow can dream. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this extensive retrospective on Crownfall. It was a pretty darn arduous video to make, and all the people you see on screen right now aided in the voice acted bits, among other things. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This video was wicked long, and the fact that you took the time out of your day to watch every second of it means the world to me. That's all I have to say for now. Leave some feedback in the comments below, perhaps drop a like if you liked. I mean, you watched this much, so you might as well. Alright, anyways. I've been Williamson Stickman, God bless, and until next time.